Hello, my name's Andrew from Team Triple Drive, and today we'll be talking about my own personal Metalborg Sinbuster deck. And those who know, a while ago, there was a finals that happened between Ripple and Sinbuster, and the outcome of that match, Ripple was hit quite hard with several ban for an emergency ban that was put in place for it. And well, let's be honest with you, I was quite surprised that Dimension Police actually got into the finals. I'm really shocked at that. But I'll tell my version, I know why, because I saw the deck list, and I know why it lost. And I'll tell you about my personal deck list that I own at this moment, and see what you guys think about it. So let's start with the starter. Now, for my starter, I run Metalborg Black Boy. Okay, before we carry on, we have to address the elephant in the room. Yes, it is called Black Boy. Insert racist comment in the comment section below. But let's carry on. Metalborg Black Boy is a very good starter, besides what I find some other people say. I say, why don't you run Local Battle instead? But the reason is, it's a card that can emergency legion if you need be. I have to say this, if the Sinbuster player played this card in the finals as a starter, he would have won because he would have superior legion and attack for massive numbers. As you know, Sinbuster needs to be legion for any of his good skills to work, so this is the best card to use. What this card does is you counterblast 2, you choose four cards of Metalborg in its name, put it into the soul, search for a card like a legion with the grade 2 Vanguard you'll be currently on, superior ride it, and a legion with that grade 2 from the soul. This gets you up to your 20k power already, which some of the effects with Sinbuster's draw effect would go off, and does massive power. I played against DP once actually with this deck, and he was quite annoyed the fact that he was on grade 1 and I was on legion attacking for 30k. It's a very good card. I recommend most Sinbuster players to play this card in deck, although Local Battle is good as well. Now for my crit lineup, I run the obvious 8 critical that every Dimension Police player will play. So I'll keep getting them mixed. What? You run the 8 crit because you want their massive power offense, because your Vanguards attack with huge numbers, you might as well add crit on top of that. 4 of them, which is Metalborg Battle Roller, is your normal 4 crit. But these 4 crits are special. These are Metalborg Grass Cutter. What they do is, put them into your soul, choose up to a grade 2 and a grade 3 Vanguard, and they gain 3000 power each. This card is absolutely necessary in any Metalborg deck I find, as it's pretty much a free power up. And it's basically a killer, but a critical trigger. Now for my other sets of critical triggers, I run your 4 bog standard Metalborg Black Nurse heal triggers and 4 Operator Girl Raker. As you know, the 4 heal triggers are your bog standard heal triggers, but then I also run 4 Operator Girl Rakers. What they do is pretty good. They run it on your rearguard circle, you put them back in your deck, shuffle your deck, choose one of your Vanguards, that gains 4000 power, and when your Vanguard attacks, if it's 37,000 power more, you may draw a card. This can stack, and that's the best thing about this card. This card can stack, which means you could put 3 of them onto one Vanguard. If it attacks, you can draw up to 3 cards. And it's amazing because this, not only will you basically draw the stand triggers back to carry on doing it, but it fuels up your guard defense against all opponents. And it doesn't even need to hit, which is a bonus. Now that was my 0 lineup. Now for my grade 1 lineup, you run the obvious 3 Commander Laurel. This is a staple in any Dimension Police deck. And I'll be honest with you, people say, why don't you run 4? So I don't run 4 because I find running 4 in a deck counteracts what the deck does. Commander Laurel is a very, very risky card, and all it is, it's there to give your opponent mental pressure. Because they know if you hit, your Vanguard is going to withstand. What it does is, when your Vanguard attack hits, doesn't matter what it hits, it can hit Vanguard or Rearguard, rest 4 units, restand the Vanguard, rest 4 units and restand the Vanguard, and that can attack again. You can even rest itself, which makes the card even more deadly. These are really expensive at the moment. They're at ludicrous prices because of the new Dimension Police support for set 7. But this card is absolute staple. I would say run it at maximum 3. 2 is fine, but it's a very, very strong card. And it's a double rare, so I like the print of it as well. I also run 3 Cosmic Hero Grand Ranger. Now, why do I run Cosmic Hero Grand Ranger and not Black Doctor? Very, very simple reason. theory is, if you can't Legion, you can't Stride. Or if you can't Stride, you can't Legion. Which means if I cannot Stride, either way, if I cannot Stride, I cannot Legion. So what I do is I'll Stride first to activate the Gen Break 1 effect, which makes it a 10k booster regardless of what state my Vanguard is actually in. Which is absolutely brilliant and absolutely necessary in this Inbuster deck, I find. You can run back Doctor if you like, but then that will lose its 4k power if you Stride into a card. Unfortunately. Now, my next card is a staple. My next 4 cards is a staple in every Inbuster deck, I find, and that is 4 Metalborg Mysticos. What it does is when it's placed on Vanguard Circle, you counterblast 1, you choose up to 2 of your Vanguards, and they gain 4k each. Which means on call, it's plus 8k to the Vanguard, which means your Vanguard will be attacking for at least 28k, which means you need to find 2k from somewhere for all the funny effects to go off. This is absolutely amazing, and it's one of the best cards I've ever seen recently for the deck. Also, it works if you have Vanguard its own. You can call it itself, give the power, and some of its effects will still go off. It's absolutely brilliant, and I love it. And finally, your 4 perfect cards. You run 4 Cosmic Hero Grand Guard, and the reason why is because they unflip. That's the reason why. They're perfect cards, they unflip. In Dimension Police, we have next to no unflip power, except for the set 7 support. You want to run any cards that unflip, and these 4 unflip damage, which is really what you want. Which I think is very good for the deck, and very good for the deck, and very good for other combo for cards you want to use. Because in this deck, you have to be careful what you're counterblasting, for what skills. But that's quite good. Now for my grade 2 lineup, I run the Legion Mate 4 Metalborg Lionetta. The reason why is because it's a 12k attacker. You can't go wrong with 12k beat 6 in your Dimension Police deck. Because Dimension Police deck is all about the power. This thing, if you manage to restand after Commander Laurel skill, it becomes a 17k beat stick immediately, which will make your opponent have to force out another 10k guard against it. Very, very good card, and luckily it's a Legion Mate, so it allows you to, it's actually got more than one use for it. On top of that, I run 4 Russell Blizzard. Here you go. And what Russell Blizzard does, when it attacks, you counterblast 1, you choose up 2 of your Vanguards, they gain 3k each. The reason I run this card over Cosmic Hero Grandfire is because it's got Metalborg in its name, and it allows me to use it to pay the cost of Black Boy to get out the Grace Theory Legion choice if need be. I find this card, as I said, a very, very good, I don't find it very good, I find it good, but I will barely use its skill, mainly because it requires Counterblast, and you'd rather use Counterblast for different things. Now for my last set of grade 2s, I run 4 Urubuster. You probably guessed what my grade 2 lineup is now already. What 4 Urubuster does is, when your Vanguard Legion, you choose your Vanguard against 4k, and when that Vanguard attack hits, you retire a unit. Other than that, it is absolutely completely useless, and you only ever use it for the Legion fodder. The reason I run 4 is because you want this on your Vanguard circle when you're at grade 2. So you can activate Black Boy's effects off to get its Legion. And you probably already know what the Legion's going to be. For grade 3 lineup, I'm going to start with 3 Baron Grader. Baron Grader, by far, is the best Metalborg card released for Metalborgs. What this does, this solves a problem if you can't get the grade 3 you want. This card will get you your grade 3. What it does, its main skill is Counterblast 1. So Blast 1, which is an act. Search your deck for a grade 3 that can Legion, ride it as stand, and it gains 3000 power. This not only fuels the Legion cost, but it gets out the grade 3 you want. And for its second skill is Soul Blast 2, or Soul Blast 1. Soul Blast 1, it gains 2000 power on the rearguard circle, which means that if you need to get rid of your soul to re-Legion again, you can use this card to do that, and it gains power up at the same time, which is really, really good. Then I think people should run 3 or 4 of this. I run 3 of this because my rest of my grade 3 lineup, but 3 or 4 of this is absolutely necessary and is an absolute staple in the Inbuster deck. And finally I run, I run also 1 Metalborg Dryon, what Metalborg Drying does is, of course, it's got the Legion skill, and it's obviously got the Legion skill because it's the backup Legion. It's also got the skill when it attacks a Vanguard against these on 30,000 power. But its main skill is interesting, is when it gets 30,000 power or more, it will get, and if it is in Legion, it gains an extra critical, which means it will attack for if you have the right combos. If you have obviously Grand Ranger behind this card in Legion, that's a permanent 2 crit every time it attacks. This is a sleeping devastated card, and when the deck originally came out, I have won many games using this card. Back then I ran 4 though. And finally, the big man himself, I ran 4 Metalborg Sinbuster. I really like Metalborg Sinbuster for one main reason. It has no counterblast or no soul blast cost. All its abilities activate on power levels. It's obviously got the Legion skill, which is required, and Legions with Urubuster. And also, its bottom Vanguard skill is when its Vanguard is 20,000 or more, it gains additional skill. If it hits, you draw a card. If it's a Legion, it will be 20,000 power, which means if at any point it hits, you will draw a card. Also, with other combos you can do with the deck, you can make this 20k on its own to get the major draw advantage. And finally, its main skill, which is if it is in Legion, if it is in 30,000 power, your opponent cannot guard again with 1s or higher from hand against this card. This card is devastating because of that. The amount of games I've won because your opponent cannot guard against it is ridiculous. Sinbuster is such a powerful card, I believe. It is one of my favourite cards ever made. Period. But enough about the grade 3s. Let's move on now to the strides. So, obviously, 4 strides you're going to run is obviously Hyper Metalborg Heavyduke. Now, this card is absolutely amazing. This card pretty much makes Metalborgs the feared powerhouse it is now, and this, I think, is one of the main reasons why Metalborgs got into the finals international match. What this card does is Counterblast 2 when this unit attacks the Vanguard. If it hits, you may draw a card equal to the number of hearts you have. And against this skill, if your hearts are Metalborgs, your opponent cannot guard using 1s or higher from hand against this deck. So not only this ability can be unperfect guardable, which means your opponent can't use perfect guards against it, but if it hits, you can draw up to 2 cards. So if with this card and with the Rake Operator Go Raker stand triggers, you could draw a massive amount of cards using this deck. And once it's the only deck the reason I don't run draws this deck because it's the feel of decking out. Plus extra crit power is very nice. And then finally, in my stride zone, I run 2x Rogue and 2x Tiger. 2 Super Cosmic Hero X Rogue and Super Cosmic Hero X Tiger. I'll be honest with you, they're G-Assist fodder. I never use them in the deck. They're just there, so if I need a G-Assist, that's what they're there for. They're never used. You only ever use Heavyduke in your stride zone. And, well, that's it. Now, when you play this deck, there's not really much of a combo you can do. But the idea is you want to have a chain where you can make your opponent cannot guard with 1s or higher the entire game. But there's a combo you can do which involves drawing cards which are found quite hilarious. So basically, at the beginning of your turn, you want to have your field to look somewhat like this. Doesn't really matter what your front 2 grade 2 cards are, but as long as you have Commander Law on the field, and the card behind the other rear guard, and your Vanguard is in Legion, and you have 4 damage. And in your hand, you'll leave something that looks a bit like this. 1 card you use a stride with, and 4 Operator Go Raker stands. So at the beginning of your turn, you draw a card. And honestly doesn't matter what you draw at this point in your hand. And then you stride into your Hyper Metalborg Heavyduke. Obviously, with Hyper Metalborg on skill, your Vanguard is now 26k. And then you can use all 4 of your stand triggers. One at a time, obviously. And then you shuffle them back in the deck. I'll put them at the bottom for now, but they have to be shuffled back into your deck. So your Vanguard will gain an additional 16,000 power, which means it's at 42,000 already. At this to be honest, calling a Vanguard at this moment is not really much point, but we will anyway, so I'll call that the back row. So now it's 52,000 power column. Of course, at the moment, I have no cards in hand. As you can see, my hand's got no cards in them. When you attack the Vanguard, of course, you attack with your Vanguard. You'll Counterblast 2 to activate skill. Put a card got 1 to higher, and because it's stand trigger skill, you will draw 4 cards. And you draw like those 4, for example. Just draw like those 4, for example. And you do triple drive. So let's say you attack your triple drive, you get a crit, crit, and a crit. You're attacking him, you attack him. If he's still alive at this point, that's amazing. And then of course you activate Heavyduke skill, which is you draw 2 cards because you got 1 card per heart. So in this case you will draw 2. And at this point you've already got a large hand as it is, with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cards in it. So 9 card hand. And then you activate Commander Laurel skill, which means you rest these 4 rear guards to restand the Vanguard, and then you attack with the Vanguard again. So this will attack the Vanguard for 52 plus any triggers you get anyway. Activate its skill again. You will draw an additional 4 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. Which means that you draw additional 4 cards and then you attack with triple drive again. So let's say, for example, I know another 3 crit because you're really, really lucky that day. So put in your hand, and then at this point your opponent won't survive, but if he does, amazingly, you will draw an additional 2 cards because it's in Buster's skill. So, oh my god, 2 perfect cards. So at the end, you'll end up drawing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 cards in hand at the end of that turn. And effectively, if you include the one you draw at the beginning, that's 19 cards. So you end up from a 0 card hand to an 18 card hand. And that combo I find personally is really, really hilarious. But the problem is, you can't do that a lot because you will deck out. And usually when you shuffle your deck, you'll get stands back in the deck, which will make it, we can make you do it again. But then again, once you do that 2 or 3 times, once you do that twice, you're going to deck out. Plus also the fact that you will not have the Counterblast to continue doing that unless you pull out all the perfect cards, like I pull 3 of them out, or you heal, so you get the 4 Counterblast again. That's not really going to happen. But that's a combo I found that's hilarious, huge amounts of draw power, and your opponent's going to have a hard time fighting through that. So anyway guys, tell me what you think. You think any changes I should do to Sin Buster deck? You think it's good? You think it's bad? Write in the comment section what you like below, and I will see you with another video. This is Andrew from Team Triple Drive, signing out. Have a nice one.